Yes, people, we're here once again on the Big Bad Station, abaracradio.com, with yours truly, DJKat the Kat-a-lyst. And I'm very excited to be announcing this great project that's up and coming and coming out on the 1st of October and beyond. It's called Prisoners of Belief. So, Richard Rowe, tell us about this great journey.
Right, okay. Well, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me. Just to let you know, I'm an English guy, lived here all my life, and I started to work with some local charities and people in the community about 7 years ago. I learned a lot, or rather initially I realised how little I knew, and a lot of the people had experiences and challenges in their life I'd never faced. I actually felt quite ill-equipped. But 1st of October, I'm now down the Central Methodist Hall in Coventry, launching my book. It's taken me over 6 years to write, and it's about how people's beliefs impact on their lives, how they interpret the world, and how the decisions they make at every stage in their life. So your beliefs are actually extremely important. They're also a source of great strength, and also they cause enormous challenges in certain places, in situations where things go wrong. So to review the beliefs that you have in life is extremely important. The story is based in Coventry, and I now, the book is launched, and I now have a website, which is www.prisonersofbeliefs.co.uk, and there you can buy the book. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Kindle. There'll be various things. There'll be websites. It'll be on Instagram. It'll be on Twitter. It'll be live on Instagram, the actual event of the day. There'll be a feedback, readers' feedback at prisonersofbeliefs.co.uk, and it'll be on LinkedIn. And it's supported by various organisations in Coventry, including the Coventry Refugee and Migrant Centre, the Methodist Hall, and some of the proceeds will go to local charities and also a Somalia charity, which helps entrepreneurs in Mogadishu, which a friend of mine runs. And the reason, the two charities that I'm supporting, 100% of every penny that is put in goes directly to the people. I've actually worked at the refugee centre, giving out the vouchers, etc., for food and things that they need, and I know that for a fact. And I don't know any other charity where every single penny goes directly to the people who need it. So that's for me, this is really exciting.
100%.
I was going to read some extracts from the book, and just to explain the background. The first scene is there's a girl called Mohini. She's a Hindu. She's come over with her family from India, and they've settled in the community. Her dad is a strict Hindu. He works in his cousin's Indian restaurant. He works in the kitchen with other Indians. He goes home to his Indian wife, Indian community. But his daughter meets lots of different people at school. And she has different experiences. She falls out with the dad. The dad is very, very strict, and she doesn't run away from home. She leaves when she's not supposed to, and she meets a group. One of them is a streetwise girl, and she takes Mohini over to a flat, and some men there get her drunk, they then rape her and make her a prostitute. And so her life is absolutely fallen apart. She's disappeared. One of the customers comes in, and he's a racist, and he beats her up very, very badly, and she ends up in hospital. I mean, this is, all part of the story, and it's leading into the extract I'm going to read. So that's a horrible set of circumstances of exploitation and abuse. She meets a lady who goes around, who's a little old English lady, and she's a volunteer at the hospital. And she goes around with the trolley, gives people a cup of tea, has a chat with them, asks they want a library book, and talks to them and tries to sort of cheer them up.
Yeah.
Rose has met the main character in the story called Carl. Carl is an African guy, escaped from a war zone. He's in this country. He's applied for right to remain. Life has been very tough for him. He crossed the Sahara, the Mediterranean on an inflatable, Europe, and he's ended up in a room of his own, but in a shared house with other migrants from different countries, and they don't know who to trust, and nobody talks to anybody. I've been in some of these houses, so I've got some idea what it's like. Anyway, so Carl is in hospital, and the reason that he's there is the result of a racist attack where he was badly beaten up by a gang.
Wow.
Rowe, he's very clever, he's very wise, and he's done a lot of research as to how his circumstances have ended up with him being in the situation he's in.
Yeah.
He puts this together. He studies history, he studies politics and economics and all sorts of things. And he has a broad understanding, because he's not allowed to work by the Home Office rules. He goes to the library all day, every day, and he just studies. And he accumulates a lot of information. And if you like, that's a parallel with what I've been doing, because that's me learning about things I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Trying to incorporate them in the story. So Rose realises that Mahini is in a desperate state. She needs some support and she needs some guidance. And she tries to repeat some of the things that Carl has said to her, some of his wisdoms.
Okay.
But she can't explain it properly, and she knows it sounds silly. So she suggests that why doesn't Mahini meet Carl? Well, Mahini's desperately ashamed of her circumstances and has no intention of talking to anybody.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to be rude, so she says she'll think about it.
Okay.
So this is the opening scene, which is Mahini meets Carl. Mahini has no intention of sharing her experiences with a well-meaning stranger. Not wishing to appear ungrateful, she says she will think about it. What she thinks about is how to say no. Eventually, having no ideas of her own, she unenthusiastically agrees. Carl, this is the girl I was telling you about, Rose says. Her name is Mahini. Hi, Mahini. She looks at the tall, thin, good-looking black man lying on the bed. Pleased to meet you, she says, politely, but without sincerity. I'll leave you two to talk, and Rose continues her rounds. The two strangers are alone. Mahini busies herself looking around the room, avoiding eye contact. Carl breaks the silence. Pleased to meet you. How can I help? Rose told me about you. She said I should talk to you. What about? I don't know. Well, why don't you start by telling me about yourself? Okay. Mahini will keep this impersonal and superficial. My family came from India, and we thought we'd be safe in England. Ha! Carl interrupts. Ain't that the truth? You got to be English to be safe in England. See, we have something in common already. His strong but gentle voice and far-side manner, sprinkled with delicate humour, is disarming. It is as if they've known each other for ages, and reminds her of Barack Obama. Mahini relaxes a little and smiles back at him. Beginning her story, describing the circumstances of the move from India, it soon becomes difficult to tell half a story and for it to make sense. Unwittingly, her inner thoughts surface with a momentum of their own. For the first time, she addresses her feelings towards her father, Andy, her boyfriend, and the circumstances of her arrival in hospital. Unloading things she had tried to forget propels the story forward, as if it is news to her and she cannot wait to hear more. Focusing increasingly on how she feels about the events that have left her like discarded rubbish, releases a strange, lighter, freer self, as if a window in a long abandoned house has just been opened. Carl listens attentively, without further interruption, his eyes closely observing her. He can sense her vulnerability and believes that she has good instincts and needs help. Having said far more than she planned, Mahini falls silent, looking a little apprehensive. Carl does not respond for several moments and then sympathetically delivers an answer as if a great secret is about to be shared. I know a person who can help you tackle all of your problems. A really wonderful person who will support you for the rest of your life. Would you like me to tell you who it is? Yes, please. You. Recoiling from this rebuff, Nahini realizes she said too much, humiliated herself, and wasted her time. Rejecting the impossible, she states the problem that is so obvious it should not need saying. I can't do anything. The bad things that have happened to me are not what I ever wanted. Why did they happen? Carl's soft tones elicit a response. Because we moved from India and don't fit in this country. Do you like it here? I did, Nahini replies positively. So apart from your recent experience, you fit in, so what does not? My father wants me to live as if I were in India, but I can't. Why? Annoyed and defensive, Nahini again states the obvious. Because everything is different here. Carl persists with this line of inquiry. So you have changed, but your father has not. Will England ever change to be like India? Nahini's frustration with the stupidity of these questions starts to show. No, of course not. So your father will never fit in unless he makes some changes, and you will never fit in if you blindly follow your father's wishes. Finally, Nahini can state the inevitable conclusion. So there is no solution. For the first time, Carl disagrees. There is always a solution. It may not be the one you want, but in the end, the situation always resolves itself. He pauses before proceeding. You know, we often believe that the past is set in concrete and the future is uncertain. But the past was never certain, nor is the future. The only thing concrete about the past is that it's over and we know the outcomes. We delude ourselves that they were certainties based on fundamental truths and therefore will never change in the future. But they are only a single outcome based on specific circumstances that may never recur. Our knowledge of those circumstances is always imperfect, and often we only select those aspects that fit the story we want to believe. The past that is remembered is only a reconstruction and becomes part of the mythology. Nahini looks perplexed. All the tallest buildings in the world are built to be flexible. Carl asks, why is that? I don't know, says Nahini, not seeing the point of the question. What would happen if they were completely rigid? I don't know. Maybe they'd snap. She offers, lost and not caring. Correct, says Carl. All the pressure would be inside the building, and it would be more likely to break. If the building bends, the pressure inside is a lot less. It is the same with people. The more you adapt to your environment, the less internal pressure you will feel, and the happier and healthier you will be. Does that make sense? Sort of, she admits, but I can't make my dad change. You are young and have the rest of your life before you. If you stay in this country, you will only be happy and prosper if you accommodate to life here. You come from one community. Sorry.
No problem.
You come from one community, and your inexperience may make you believe that there are no alternatives. But if that community represents only 1% of humanity, then 99% of people live different lives. It is a mistake to think that you can move continents and not have to adapt, or that there are no alternatives to what you have known. Creatures that have existed for hundreds of millions of years have had to adapt to their environment, or they eventually die. All empires and belief systems throughout history have changed with time and location, or they perish. Without that flexibility, they would not have grown in the first place. Better to live in harmony with your environment than to fight a losing battle until it destroys you. Flexibility is a strength, not a weakness. But I'm a Hindu, not a Christian. Don't let society define who you are, neither British, Indian, or any other. That does not mean that you give up all your beliefs, but where they conflict with your present reality, you must be objective enough to re-evaluate their relevance to you and adapt them where necessary. The person ultimately responsible for you is you. if you don't value yourself, no one else will. If you accept everything you are taught without question, you are indoctrinated, whether you're Christian, communist, fascist, Muslim, Buddhist, or whatever. So that's the end of that extract. It goes on that it talks about different stuff.
Yeah. Wow. So, with that now, obviously you've gone into places that are reflective of these extracts. Was everybody forthcoming with yourself on actually giving your story, or did you have to build up relationship yourself?
You have to build relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, what I found is if you get to know people, if you get to know an individual, over time you build up a relationship.
Okay.
And they either like you, they don't like you, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, if that individual then spends time with you and builds up trust, you then start to talk about different things.
Yeah.
And if you help them in practical ways, you're demonstrating that, yes, you are a friend and you want the best for them. And then what you find is, I don't go to a stranger and then start imposing myself on them.
Yeah.
What happens is you build relationships and they tell their friends and they believe their friend much more than they believe me.
Yeah.
Because they say, oh, he's all right.
Yeah.
And that's like the biggest compliment you can have. So yeah, it takes time. And I mean, I've known some people now for 6 years. Some of them are very good friends.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot, and I really enjoy their company. And we meet fairly often, and we do different things. Some people have very severe practical problems, and they need practical help at a moment in time.
Yeah.
And a small thing that I do, maybe not much to me in terms of inconvenience or whatever, but actually at the moment that they need it might be really important.
Yeah.
So you get right to remain, and you've got to furnish your flat, and you've got no furniture.
Yeah.
I've taken to people I've either collected furniture or taken them to choose furniture or go shopping or lots of different things. And you're sharing your life, and that's proper integration.
Yeah.
The government can pass any rules they like, but unless people socialise and share their lives, it's not proper integration and it will cause problems.
Yeah. And perhaps you can kind of talk your own experiences, because I'm sure you've heard it yourself about, people come over here and they take our jobs, they do this, they do that. Is there something that you could kind of tell the listeners and the people out there of something that actually does happen?
Well, the reality is... Oh, sorry about that.
No problem.
When we say people take your jobs, that's looking at one individual compared with another individual.
Yeah.
If you look at society, America was built by immigration.
Yeah.
And immigration has always enriched humanity. I mean, throughout history.
Yeah.
It's an exchange of people, exchange of ideas, cultures, food, knowledge of science, and all sorts of things. We learn from each other. If you look at society in this country now, there's almost nothing. The clothes you wear, the computers you use, the food you eat, what you travel on, whether it's a bus, a bicycle, or a car, or whatever, that was actually invented and produced near where you live.
Yeah.
Almost nothing at all.
Definitely.
And the reality is that if you brought in, say, 100,000 people from abroad, they create wealth, and that creates then more jobs. And the idea that you can preserve something in time immemorial is complete fantasy. You look at history.
Yeah.
I mean, we all came from Central Africa.
Yeah.
You look at the British; they went all over the world. You look at populations that came in. I mean, the Romans came in, the Saxons, the Vikings, the Danes, the Frisians. Lots and lots of people came in.
Yeah.
They have enriched society to make it what it is.
Yeah.
And our society is completely dependent for food, for materials, as a financial centre, on the connections. We are completely dependent. We would not survive without it.
Yeah.
So the idea that you can take an individual and say, that person's working in a factory, I could have had that job.
Yeah.
Well, that person is creating some wealth. They're paying some taxes, and it frees you up to do something else.
Yeah.
So therefore, it creates the wealth that society is completely dependent upon. Yeah. And therefore, it's an illusion to think that you can somehow freeze the UK and then we'll be okay. It won't only not solve any problems, it can make life much worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you've only got to look at Brexit, and what a catastrophe that's been.
Yeah.
And we haven't even started on the damage. It's all got masked by COVID and various other, and the war in Ukraine these days.
Yeah.
But long term, it will do a lot of damage. We've signed almost no agreements of any value. Not with the EU, we're in dispute with them. The Americans aren't signing an agreement with us in the near or medium term, which means years from now. And we are much worse off. We're more dependent. We've had more paperwork and more overheads, more customs officers, more loads of things,
yeah.
all of which is completely unproductive.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that in the story, I go into the Scottish National Party and Brexit and things like that with very specific opinions.
Yeah.
So shall I read another little extract, which
yeah.
is, this is called Chicken Tikka Masala, an unlikely solution.
Okay.
And this is where Carl starts to develop his conversation with Mahini.
Okay.
She initially was very resentful, and then slowly she has to think differently, and Carl is presenting her with ideas about her life. And because her life has been shattered, she has to reconstruct it, and she doesn't have the experience to know what the alternatives are. So this is where Carl starts to talk to her.
Okay.
Okay, so this one is a short extract from Chicken Tikka Masala, an unlikely solution. Mahini is grateful to Carl, but unsure how to move her life forward. I appreciate the time you spend talking to me. It's made me think differently about things, but I'm not sure how it helps me. Always reassuring, Carl replies, that's okay. Solutions usually take time and are rarely obvious, but there always is a solution. Her youthful spirit seems burdened by a weight that cannot be carried. I can't see how things will change for me. Things cannot stay the same, so they will change. You are young and you don't understand the alternatives, but there are always alternatives. The important thing is to deal with what is real, take responsibility for changing those things that are important to you, and deal with things if they get worse. Failure is not about not succeeding. Failure is not trying. Martin Luther King said, I never fail, I succeed or I learn something. Searching may open doors later that are not visible now. Mahini is interested, but still confused. Do you know the most popular meal in the country? Another strange question from this unusual man. No, she smiles. Chicken tikka masala. Do you know where it was invented? Mahini offers a logical guess. In the Punjab? No. In the UK? Glasgow. Do you know how? No idea. She laughs at this absurdity of this conversation. This might be silly, but it is fun, and there must be some point somewhere. Carl develops a tale. A customer went to an Indian restaurant and ordered a chicken tikka. When the waiter brought the meal, it was dry, and the customer said, where's the gravy? I don't understand. What's that got to do with me? Carl continues. The chef then opened a tin of tomatoes and added seasoning to create the customer's gravy. Completely perplexed, Mahini looks at Carl. So, when the customer went into the restaurant, do you think that he, the waiter, or the chef thought of a sauce? No. The customer entered the restaurant with certain expectations, and the restaurant offered what they knew. This created a problem, and the solution was something new that none of them could have known. You have a problem, and there's always a solution. And who is the best person to find your solution? Me? The young apprentice is rewarded with an affirmative smile. Understanding and tolerating the differences without suppressing what is important to Mahini is the only way she will be happy. Coming from a culture that discourages females from expressing themselves in public, she feels inhibited by the judgment of others. Carl has to equip her to deal with this conditioning. Do you feel guilty about being Indian? No. Do you feel guilty about your skin colour? No. If you stole from a shop, will you feel guilty? Yes. Why? It is because of what you did. You did neither of the other things. Never feel guilty of being you. Taking responsibility creates opportunities, but also potential dangers. You must be aware of those influences and not be bullied into following the rules that damage you. Gradually, these conversations open up new ways for her to look at herself and offering opportunities to take control and make decisions about her future. This is progress. She has defined the problem and recognises that she is the best person to find a solution. This gives her something specific to focus on. But what is her solution, and will it be better or worse? Anyway, that's the end of that extract.
Wow. So with those two... Sorry, carry on.
Sorry?
No, say, what was you going to say next?
No, I was just saying, that's the end of that extract, and I'll tell you something I'm very amazed and delighted with. I sent my story off to an international publishers.
Wow.
And they came back with an offer to publish the book.
Okay.
I'm not going to take the got because I'm self-publishing.
Okay.
And I've got friends and lots of people helping me, and they're very, very supportive. But I'll just read out what they actually said. And as I say, they've got offices in London, New York, Dubai, various places.
Okay.
And they are big. And I was bowled over when I read this.
Wow.
It says, a most absorbing, enthralling and entertaining read that will no doubt captivate a wide audience. A deep dive into immorality so rampant in society is told through the fresh eyes of Carl while speaking of real-world issues in a tactful manner. Your novel expertly highlights the stigma attached to asylum seekers and how people, both knowingly and unknowingly, cause unnecessary harm with long-lasting, devastating effects. The plot keeps pace without sacrificing essential character development. The setting was carefully chosen to weave intricate details into the narrative, captivating the reader's attention, leaving them hungry for the next page. I nearly fell over when I read that.
Wow, well done. That's really good.
I wouldn't have said that about me. I would just, but I mean, I was really delighted. But I'm not going to go down that road because if you do that, you sign the book over to them. They can do anything they want with it, and maybe it's nothing. They can take years doing it, and you have no rights. And if they decide that they want to market it in a certain way and cut out bits and things like that, no, I mean, to me, the book is very important to give the people the opportunity of discussing what's factually true, and also the ramifications of what is true. And the idea that somebody will come in and say, no, we'll market it to this particular audience and we'll trim it and we'll cut these bits out and we'll, and they can take a few years to do that. Well, I haven't got a few years, and I want the book to go out as is. And then if people want to criticise it or whatever, that's absolutely fine. That's good. Because at least they're talking and thinking about it.
Wow. So with those two particular extracts now, what would you like people to take away from what you've read out?
I'd like them to... it's based in Coventry. There are various references in Coventry. But it actually applies... if you move to a different town, Birmingham or Sheffield or anywhere, it wouldn't... I don't think it would be radically different.
Okay.
I hope that these are things that are true for everybody. And I hope in 10 years' time somebody could read it and still find that there are things in there that are true.
Yeah.
And important. I think if we don't tackle these things, life will get much worse. Mm-hmm. And I hope, for example, migrants who come to this country don't try and become more British than the British to try and be acceptable. Yeah. They come in with different experiences, with different cultures, with different ideas, and they enrich the society. And the challenges we've got, we need the widest possible team we can to move forward. We've now got to the stage where the world population is so great, we're all dependent upon the supply chain.
Yeah.
We can't be self-sufficient. It wouldn't work. And the problem with that is that this supply chain is destroying the world we're living in.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to survive. We're finding things in the ground, we're digging them up and we're using them, but we're not replacing any of this stuff. And some of this stuff took millions of years to evolve.
Yeah.
And we're consuming it in a couple of centuries. I mean, we have some major problems, and the solution is that the population will fall drastically. And we either try and control these issues, live sustainably, and share the problems and work together on solutions, or we just suffer the consequences, and the people at the margins will suffer the most, but all societies will suffer. If people want to express their opinion or buy the book, they can get it on www.prisonersofbelief.co.uk, or they can buy it from Amazon. So that's really where I'm at. It's taken me over 6 years. I'm glad I finished it. Somebody said, "Oh, what are you going to write next?" I said, "Hopefully nothing."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it's something that is needed because it's not spoken of. It's usually the negative terms that are always spoken of. So this would definitely be out there for debate, which is interesting. I'm looking forward to actually reading the whole book myself. And I'm looking forward to see the whole aspect of what actually comes out of it. And I hope, obviously, today goes very well, the 1st of October.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Yeah, if anybody wants to come down, they can come down to the Central Methodist Hall in the centre of Coventry. I will be there. I'll be signing books. And if people just want to chat or ask some questions or express an opinion, that's really good. Happy with that.
Definitely. I just want to say thank you again, Richard. I do appreciate you coming on and talking to the listeners, talking to the people out there. And I hope that this book goes far and wide so many people can read it.
No, thank you very much indeed. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time.
Anytime. You're always welcome. Thank you again.